Okay, are you planning on racing 70.3 St. George this year? If so, this is the video for you because in it, we're going to talk through all the ins and outs from the swim, the bike, the run, and transition that you need to know to have an absolutely brilliant race day. So, but who are we? My name is Coach Steve. I am a Ironman U certified coach, and I'm also mainly a YouTuber at the moment who does race reviews of the courses on the North American and European circuits. And how I do that is I connect with race experts in that locale that will give me that either raced it or coached it and tell us exactly what you need to know. And for today's race review, I'm absolutely delighted to work with Coach Hilary, who has not only raced this course, but has coached a number of athletes on it. And I'll let her introduce herself now. Coach, how are you?
Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for having me. So, hello, everybody. My name is Coach Hilary. I'm an Ironman certified coach, but here's the thing I've raced this 5 times, the 70.3, including a world championship. So, I'm excited to share all the tips you need for race day.
Fantastic. And as I said, we're going to go through the swim, the bike, and the run course. So we're going to I'm going to break here now, editor, and then we'll allow them put that in. And then we'll move on to swim course. Looks like a simple enough swim course. Do you want to give us a little bit of a lowdown on the water quality? What can athletes expect on their race day morning?
So, the swim is in Sand Hollow Reservoir, and it's a beautiful reservoir. Water is clean, it's clear. Usually, not a lot of waves or anything. But I will tell you, you swim in when you leave out, you're going to swim to the east, which means you've got the sun rising on the mountains. So you want to make sure you've got the good goggles because you'll have the sun in your eyes for that first part of the swim. You'll come out onto a beach, but when you come back in, it will be on a boat ramp, and you'll have the volunteers helping you come up. So yeah, you'll swim out towards you'll there's mountains out, and you'll swim towards the mountains. Then you'll make a right. Then you'll make another right, and then you'll start coming back into transition. You might, depending on how the current is for the water, you might have the current against you. The 2 times I've had it both ways, where I've actually flowed with the current, or I've had where I felt like I was in a toilet bowl because the current just kept coming towards me. So it can be either or. Just depends on race day.
Yeah, it
Um,
depends on that prevailing wind, really, isn't it? As in sort of you can get it one way or the other. Okay.
yes,
Um.
yes.
So on that as well, typically a wetsuit swim, or does it?
Oh,
I've actually never swam in a reservoir, so I'm kind of wondering: is it normally wetsuit? And is
Oh,
there
it
any
is
wildlife in there?
definitely wetsuit. So water temperature can be about 60 degrees. I want to say that's 16 Celsius. And then you definitely want to wear a wetsuit. It's going to be cold race morning. Air temperature will probably be about 40 to 50. So actually, it's warmer to get into the water than be out in transition. One thing I like to tell my athletes is because of that coldness of the water, you really want to take this time in training to really acclimate yourself to cold water training, to the swim. Whether you're taking a couple days where you're putting your face in cold water because that initial reaction, that's what causes that fight or flight when you're swimming and causes that anxiety. Another thing I like to share with anybody who's doing any type of cold water swim is get that wetsuit ready to go. So when you're in transition, get 1 or 2 bottles of water, room temperature. It doesn't need to be scalding hot. And what you're going to do is you're going to pour it inside your wetsuit because you don't want the water from the reservoir to get absorbed into the wetsuit. you want to have some warm water already absorbed, and that's what's going to be up against your body. So when you get into the water, it's not going to be as shocking. Um, they have in the past allowed us to jump in just to get water on us and then jump out, but it's all very, it's the day of the race is when that decision is made.
Okay. No, it's a brilliant tip, and I also get my guys in terms of, as I said, if the water down the wetsuit, it does take that moment away. Even if, as I said, if it's not going to be the same temperature of the water, it's just having that feeling of water against the skin. And also, if you can even go to the edge of the water, dip your hands in and and splash it on your face, it just takes away that cold shock. Okay, cool. And as I said, I've never swam in a reservoir. They don't have any fish in there, or they're definitely not having any jellyfish like Mary.
Oh no, they don't have jellyfish, but they do have some fish in there. I like little small ones. I've never seen any fish. Definitely
Okay.
you will see grass in the, you know, some shrubbery or whatnot, but nothing that's gonna, it's not like Maryland or Hawaii where you're gonna see maybe a dolphin or a turtle or anything.
Yeah, well, actually, I've been doing some Australian reviews and that, and they're talking about sharks. So I'm thinking this is a much better outcome. As in, you're going to see a little fish, not a problem. And again, a
Right.
lot of newbies get a bit nervous about the concept. As I said, like if you talk to anyone doing Maryland, it's just the first thing comes up is jellyfish. But no, so it's going to be a nice, smooth swim start today. The water will be cold, but you're not going to run into anything that you're in no marine life. Um, in terms of how you get out of the water, is it comes out in the pontoon, you run out onto the beach, or are there volunteers to help? How does that work?
Oh yeah, when you come into transition, because you're kind of going up a bit of a ramp, you've got volunteers ready to grab you, get you steady on your feet. You'll come up the ramp, and these last couple of events in the last couple of years, we have had wetsuit peelers ready to go. But a lot of people have actually, because this race has been without peelers, people have ran by them and gone, "Oh, there was a peeler back there." So but it is also race day dependent, depending on the number of volunteers that they have that day. If they have enough volunteers, they're there ready to peel that wetsuit off of you and help you get along.
There's one thing I've picked up as well from North America. It's very much a North American thing, as in again in Europe we don't have that. But and I also find you very polite. You call them peelers, we would call them strippers, as in like, and then also then you have that weird concept where people are going, make sure you've got a couple of dollars in your wetsuit for the to tip the wetsuit strippers. And I went, look, if it gets out that I'm tipping strippers and when I'm racing in America, this I'm never going to be allowed. Was it the wife is never going to let me go race in America again? Okay, but it's good, nice swim. If there may be wetsuit peelers in time, gonna be cold. Again, do that acclimatization. And great training tip: make sure you get used to swimming in your wetsuit in the cold water and avoid that being the big shock. Because that, if you have not done this, you can have those panic attacks. We'll go like, oh my god, it just the wetsuit feels like it's crushing your chest. Making sure you practice. Absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant tip. Right. So we have a split transition now, as in terms of, and is the run to transition from our little checkered flag there? Is it a long run up to transition, or what's the surface like?
No, it's fairly short. I've done races where it's been very long. I apologize. I don't know what the distance is, but it's a very short, maybe a tenth of a mile, I would say, very short.
Cool. Excellent.
And
All right.
you
So
do
we're
have
gonna hop
to
on.
run. You do run along a little bit to get into transition, but it it's not anything that would impact anybody's time overall.
Okay, but even if it does, again, I always explain like there's lots of long transitions in Europe, like for like Mallorca and Italy. It's the same for everyone. When you're only really racing yourself. Okay, cool. We'll talk a little bit about actually just before we go on to transition one. You did mention the swim start. It a rolling swim start in 70.3?
Yes, it
St.
is.
George?
It's going to be a rolling. It's about every 2 to 3 seconds they'll release someone. So for those that are worried about having that panic in the water, someone's not going to climb over you swimming. There's a good little space between the swimmer in front of me and the swimmer behind me. I'm not going to get rolled over like for the mass starts from the past. And it's usually about, I want to say it was four across, like in the picture. Uh, Depending on some races, when they have the open beach, I've seen it five across, and then I've seen it as short as three. So
Yeah. And actually, you probably need to elaborate because it might be complete newbies kind of as for those who've done a triathlon before and all the rest. Normally, you don't have this sort of what Ironman is implemented called a rolling swim start. And as Hilary was saying, exactly, it's helped to kind of minimize the nerves and anxiety that's associated with big mass start. And if you want to cause yourself a bit of anxiety, Google or YouTube sort of Ironman Lanzarote mass start, and you see them all piling in lemmings. This used to happen in the at the start of Ironman races. But Ironman went, look, it's a reason why people aren't getting into a sport. So they created this rolling swim start. And how that works is you will go on race morning and there'll be little pens made with those iron gates and they'll have numbers. So you'll have underneath 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. And what you do, as Hilary correctly is pointing out, that you actually put yourself in those pens to your estimated swim time. So if you swim 2 minutes per 100 in the pool, you're realistically going to swim between 35 to 40 minutes. You put yourself in that pen. And again, as Hilary pointed out, that means there's the benefit you won't be in front of stronger swimmers who might want to swim over you because you're in the way. So as long as you seed yourself correctly, you're going to set yourself up for a much easier swim day. And as Hilary said, how that works is you can see that in the picture we have the four kind of little lines. You all walk in. There's a beat that goes every 2-3 seconds, and our volunteers raise their arms, and
yep.
you see the guys here on our far left. They're in the water already. Those are four released. Our little fishies are released. Um, Nice controlled swim start. It's smooth. It reduces the anxiety on the day. And another key benefit is if you do it right, you're going to be swimming with people roughly the same level as yourself, so you find a much easier draft, etc. Is
Right.
there any
And
other?
you find that your swim is a little easier because you're just kind of, you feel like you're swimming with friends.
Yes.
Because you're all doing the same thing, and like you mentioned, you get a nice little draft. You causes your swim to be a little easier. Your swimming partner next to you, it's a little easier, and it really takes away that anxiety. Is someone going to climb over me? Now, yes, you might have that person who is a fast swimmer and they got to transition late, so they had to get into line wherever, and they might swim over you. Or there is someone who didn't realize they were a faster swimmer, and vice versa. You didn't realize that you were a faster swimmer, or you were a slower swimmer and you got into the wrong. So be mindful of that. But other than that, it's not as crowded as it used to be in the past.
Yeah, and I think there's also there's a use case we're not really shouting out, which I see a lot. A lot of people they're worried about cutoffs, and the cutoff, by the way, is an hour and 10 for the swim. And they go, right, if I put myself in at the start, I get more time. Rubbish. Your timing only goes off when you cross the mat, which is roughly around the feet of the volunteers here. If you put yourself in and the under the 30-minute swimmers and you're a 40-minute swimmer, that is a scenario where you'll sort of get in the way of people, and the stronger swimmers will go, you shouldn't be here, pal, and they will swim over you. And I've seen it happen. I was at 70.3 in Germany, and there was guys hopping in the first wave, like literally just after the pros, and they were breaststroking. I was going, oh no, you were definitely not a sub 30-minute swimmer. And I was going, that's not that. And again, I'd have to look away. But so seed yourself honesty, set yourself for a good day. You'll keep it's an honesty system. And if, as you said, you benefit, you will draft better. You will not get into any fisticuffs. It's just the way forward. Cool. Alrighty. Any last minute swim tips before we talk a little bit of transition?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, dokie. All right. So we have transition one, which again, it's a clean transition. Is that right, Hilary?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So you'll have you'll have three bags that you're given at athlete briefing or when you do athlete check-in. So you'll have a morning clothes bag, a bike gear bag, and a run gear bag, and we'll talk about the other two later. But for your bike gear bag, this is where you're going to set up your bag for when you come out of the water. this is when you're going to put all your bike gear on. So you want to practice now when you're doing your off the bike workouts with from bike to run. How do you put your stuff on? Are you feet up or are you head down? So do you put your shoes on first or do you put your helmet on first? However you're going to do it, that's how you're going to pack your bag. So after you get out of the water, you'll grab your bag, you'll open it up, you'll start getting your wetsuit off if you didn't use the peeler, start getting your swim cap off, goggles, everything, start taking everything out of your bike gear and start putting it on. Everything that you did for the swim goes into the bike gear bag. So your wetsuit, your goggles, your earpieces, anything that you use during the swim will go into your bike gear bag. And then that bike gear bag gets handed off to a volunteer. Or I've been in a race in the past. So again, go to athlete briefing so you can get that day's race where you left it there and a volunteer just came and picked it up later. And then that bike gear bag gets put into a U-Haul truck, and that U-Haul truck then gets moved down to the finish line where you can pick it up later at the end of the race.
Actually, and I think we need to shout out a couple of things here. The fact that it gets moved by that U-Haul truck, it's because it's a split transition. So T1, where you transition from swim to bike, and T2, where you go from bike to run, are two different locations. So there
Correct.
will be your blue bag, which is your swim to bike bag, and your red bag, your bike to run bag, will be literally put out in different places. And therefore, rather than you having to worry about going to collect them, IRONMAN does a very nice thing for your entry fee. It puts it in in a truck, and it brings you to the finish line, so you don't need to worry about that. Brilliant, and I really like that. I like your top down, front up thing again, sort of almost thinking of the flow. I'm going to add to that a little bit as well. One of the key things, especially if you're new to IRONMAN racing, the bag system is new. It's kind of something to, oh no, I need to worry about it. What actually should go into the different bags. Again, I have a little video in the comments below that will go through that. But also, as it's another thing you need to worry about, not worry, to work out in terms of your flow on the day. And I always tell my athletes, as in day before, when you're checking in your bike, etc., walk that part of the course. As in, okay, so we enter the water here, I'll swim that way. That I remember Hilary telling me all the good tips. I come out, that's okay. I now need to know what's my run. Where do I go from to find my blue bag? Okay, and they'll be numbered as well. So and there's the racks. Or do they use racks in St. George or on the floor?
They've been using racks lately.
Grant. Okay, cool. I know in Texas they put them on the floor, whereas European they tend to have the racks, which it makes it a little easier. You know where the rack you run to, and they go, okay. And then where's my bike? I have to go that direction. And again, work it out in your head, work it in the flow, and take little landmarks. Okay, so when I come out of the water, I run straight up towards that tree. I take a right or whatever it is, and my bike is right in front of the third portaloo, or it's beside the letter A, whatever it is, and then that's the run exit. Quick tip is, and this is one of my first mistakes I made in my first Ironman, I went, okay, I've racked my bike beside that really green bike. It's really, really loud. I'm definitely going to remember that bike. Now, Mr. Green Cyclist was way faster swimming when I came. I was running around looking for my friend on the green bike, who was already around 20 to 30 miles ahead of me in the bike. So stationary landmarks is the way forward. What are your other top tips for your transition one to get into and out of transition one, especially in a 70.3, Hilary?
So one thing is for this point in time, take your time. Take everything with you that you packed your bag with, because you're not coming back to this transition. So if you thought you were going to oh, I'll grab it when I come back for a run or not, no. Also, be very mindful of the weather for St. George. One year it was very cold. It was the year of World Championship at the end of 2022. It was very cold for the Day of the Women. So I was going to not get all dressed up. I took the time, and I'm very thankful. I put on my booties. I put on my gloves. I put on my jacket, even though I knew I was going to be hot later. But it was worth it because I did not want to strip it off until mile 50 on the bike. So that just goes to show you really want to be prepared and take your time in T1 because it's once you go away, you're not coming back.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant point as well. And that's also one of the genius elements of the bag system, as in like, especially for some of the races in Ireland, as in we find the weather can be quite temperamental. So it can be hot, it can be cold. But I tell guys, you don't, whatever you put in the bag, you only take out what you need. So you can pack for all eventualities. If it can be a varied weather, like you might start off and the weather looks brilliant to go. By the time you get out of the water, there might have been a cloud front might come in. So it would have been loved to see a rain jacket. So I tell my guys, it's better be looking at it as in, oh, there's the rain jacket, looking at the weather, don't need that now, or, oh, I do need it, than looking for it. Because you only take out what you need and you put it back. As in, so therefore, there's no disadvantage of not having a kind of options in there if the weather's changed. Now, if it's always going to be sunny and it's going to be hot, putting too many things in there would just make it confusing to find things. But like your example is perfect, as in actually the weather's, no, it's going the wrong way for me. So I need my booties, I need my gloves, and then give yourself the option. Perfect. Anything else on transition 1 before we have a little look at the bike course? Anything
No,
else,
I
Coach?
just want to give a quick tip on transition bags. So you were given a sticker when you do your athlete check-in. You get stickers to label everything. But sometimes the stickers really stick and sometimes they don't. So a tip I like to tell my athletes, because the bags are clear on one, they're all clear. They used to be all white with the blue. Now they're clear. Get an index card. Put the sticker on the index card and then tape the index card inside on the clear side so it's protected by the plastic. You can still see the number and then it's not going to fall off. It's not going to get rubbed off or anything. Also, you want to take a Sharpie or an old school Marks-a-Lot and write it on the bag, your number, because again, the sticker can fall off or go somewhere. You can also, if you know rain is in the forecast, which it has been for this race, take a red Solo cup or red plastic cup. You're going to poke a hole in it. Take the drawstrings, have it go through the hole, and then cinch it at the top. So when you have to, because you have to leave your bag overnight, you're going to drop it off the day before, and we'll get into that. You're going to drop the bag off, so it's going to be sitting there in the rain. So instead of having your jersey get, your cycling shirt get wet, your socks get wet, everything, this is going to prevent your bag from soaking up.
Absolutely brilliant. Love that. That's one of the great things with is I'm always learning new things. One of the other tips I got from a hot race, one of the South African races, I freeze my bottle overnight, and therefore, because you have to put the bottles on in the morning. By the time I get out of the water in the South African sun, the ice is melted and it's ice cold. It's lovely. So, but I love that with the keeping the water, the clothing dry. Socks or no socks in T1 for yourself, Hilary? Are you a socks girl?
I'm a socks person all the way. Yeah, I do not want a blister. I don't want a distraction during my race.
No, exactly. You don't want to feel that heat spot, and you go like, "Oh, that's not gonna be good later on." No, again, I'm a socks type of guy, so I definitely agree with you on that one. Alrighty, let's talk a little bit about the bike course, and we should have a cool 3D little video now. And okay, we're cutting it there. All right. Okay, and okay, so just before we go into the bike course, I hope you're enjoying the video. Coach Hilary's already thrown out some great nuggets of information on the course and just in general training. So please do like the video if you can, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to check out and get in contact with Hilary in terms of to get yourself completely bulletproof for this super course or other courses in the area. I believe there's a couple of other new races on the Ironman circuit, which she would be an expert in too. Here's her Insta handle, RTD Training. Make sure you hit her up with a DM for a quick chat, and I'll also give her contact details later on if you want to ask more course-specific questions. As you can know, she knows her stuff, and this is genius content. But let's move on to the bike course. does look. Now, I'm not a climber, as in I like flat courses, and I'm unashamed to admit it. But this course looks a little bit worrying for me. As in, is it as tough as it looks, Hilary?
It's challenging. It is definitely. This is why the pros come to this race. It's the challenge, and it is the bike course. So you come out of transition. You're coming out of Sand Hollow. You're going to go through Hurricane, not Hurricane, Hurricane, and it does kind of live up to its name a little bit because it is windy. And then you'll go through St. George, then to Snow Canyon, and then come back in. So a couple things I want to point out. So there's a lot of climbing, as you can see. You're going to hit your first climb about mile 5, so immediately right out of transition. And it doesn't look like much, but because it is a short climb, we're looking at a 4.6% grade. So
Ooh.
about four, because it's about a mile, and it's just when you've shaken off the swim, you're on the bike, you're settled, you're getting going, you've taken some nutrition in, and then all of a sudden, so you're like, okay, I'm just gonna grind this one out. Uh, I, if you're a cyclist, grind all you want. If you're a runner, don't save your legs. You want to just spin it out because you've got a lot of grinding to do later. Um, you'll get through that first climb. Your second climb is going to be when out of you're now out of the park. It's going to be, I think, trying to remember the names. Washington Parkway, I believe it is, and you've got about a 2 mile. You're out on the street and you're with traffic, but they do close down a lane just for us. They have traffic completely on the other side. But even though I just want to point this out, please keep your head on a swivel. Just because it's closed doesn't mean someone might have a medical emergency and come into your
Yeah.
side of the traffic. So please be aware. We're looking about I want to say it's about 2.53% grade, but it's a slow, and you just want to climb your legs out, and that's about mile 14 to 16. You'll come out, you've got a nice downhill. So one thing, even though we're talking about a lot of climbs, here's the thing with St. George, what goes up does come down. So you want to make sure not only are you comfortable with going uphill, changing your gears, but how can you handle these downhills as well? Because you will fly down the downhills.
Quick question on though. Are they technical descents in terms of are there turns, or is it just more or less straight downs, as in which is kind of a different
Uh,
proposition? Much
it's
turning on it or switchbacks?
not a lot of not a lot of switchbacks, no switchbacks, but
Okay.
you will have some where you'll kind of glide, and you want to be where like this second hill, you kind of come up, you make a left, and then you kind of glide, and then it swings to
Okay.
the
Okay.
right, and then you go up. And I've, if anything, just kind of coasted, let my legs kind of rest, maybe do a little spin out while my bike is just, while that downhill is just taking me to the next
Okay,
hill.
cool. No, no, great. As in, like I said, some of the courses that, like, especially in Europe, we do have switchback turns, so you actually have to be very switched on for the descending. But as I said, it does sound like there's just gentle, was it veers, which is easier to handle. Great, cool. All right.
Yeah. And then, so then your third climb is about mile 20. So again, you just got done, and then you're going to just kind of let that downhill swing you back up to another uphill. And that one is about a mile, but a mile long, but it's not as bad as that first one, that first climb out of Sand Hollow. And that one's about a 3% grade. So not as bad as compared to that first one at 4.6. And then um, come out of that one, and I'm like visualizing the course right now. And then as You'll continue on the course. It's great for anybody if you've got Sherpa people following you. There's a lot of spots where they can yell at you on the race course, and
Oh,
they'll be
great.
able to get through because it is open to traffic on certain areas. And then you'll get to, we call it the Dixie sign. There's a hill. You come up, there's a big Dixie sign for you. It's a big thing in St. George. And that one is about a 2 mile climb. And we're looking at, I think it's about just under 3% grade for that
Great.
one. And then you hit the granddaddy of them all, Snow
Okay, I can
Canyon.
see this now, and I wish I could have my little spotlight thing, but I'm definitely thinking where we're hitting at the just towards the end here, where it just goes straight up.
Straight up. So you're approaching Snow Canyon. You're hitting about mile. You're at like mile 36. So that aid station, just before you know you're going to get into Snow Canyon, grab grab some water, grab your hydration because there is no aid stations in Snow Canyon.
Okay.
And Snow Canyon is a canyon, so it's hot. So you're gonna be just in, and there's no wind, nothing. It just you're kind of sitting there in this canyon going up. It's about a 4 to 5 mile climb. We're looking at about 4.5% grade, and you're just climbing out of the canyon. It's beautiful. Absolutely. This whole course is beautiful. You're going to see colors. You're going to see purples and reds and pinks and oranges that you never thought you would see before. So do take a moment to take a look around on this bike course. When you get out of Snow Canyon, you are just going to fly right back into transition. So it's very fast. It can be very windy. So be mindful if you're in aero. One question people ask me: road bike, TT bike. I say go with what you prefer. What have you been training with? For years now, I've been training with the TT bike, so I'm going to stay with my TT bike. When I first did this race, I did it on a road bike, and my friend said, "You're lucky you're doing it on a road bike." So it can be whatever, but I'm happy I'm doing it on my TT bike until I'm about a half mile outside of exiting Snow Canyon, and that's when I think I wish I had my road bike. But either bike works. Go with what you're most comfortable with, really.
No,
And
definitely.
because that's with going into Snow Canyon, that extra water bottle, that's going to be a good time where you can douse yourself. Um, One thing about St. George, it's in the desert. So we don't have beautiful pine trees and luscious trees. Everything's short. So there's not a lot of shade. So you're going to be in direct sun the whole good majority of the race unless there's cloud cover.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Actually, I do query as I watched a lot of people on this. I know it's a hilly course and all the rest. And what I think is hilarious when you look at a lot of people with their setup will have like dual bottle cage in the back and they'll have a bottle on, and except they're on this absolutely pristine carbon bike, which is light, and they're just putting on huge amounts of weight with the water. So you're right, as in if you're not consuming the water and you don't need it for the aid stations, and these are approximate to every 15 miles, we're talking about aid station, make sure you're jettisoning the water either on your body or actually just ingesting it, because otherwise that's just extra weight that you're using to climb up that hill, and that hill looks substantial. So yeah, it's either you're either using it to your advantage, either keeping your core temperature down or improving your hydration. But if it's sitting on the backside of your bike, it's just dead weight, and you don't need that on that climb. Cool. All right. It's the road surface in general as a good road surface. How would you describe it?
It's all asphalt. It's been very smooth. I've had it in years past where they were doing some construction and there was some chip seal, but these last couple of years they've done a really good job with repaving the roads. So roads have really good. With that, there are some turns. They may not be tight turns, but because of that smooth road condition, that can still cause a very slippery area. So you might have some volunteers telling you to slow down at some of the turns just because you might kick out that back tire because of the smoothness of the road.
Yeah.
Um,
And we listen to the volunteers, by the way, especially if you're new to it, as in they may go like, no way, I've built up this whatever. I'm 20 miles an hour. I'm not hitting the brakes when there's someone with a red flag and they're waving at you. There's a reason. They've done the test. They know that this can be a kind of a risk point. And do not, for the sake of 30 seconds, don't wreck your race. As in, listen to them. Take a route. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were about to say something else there.
oh no, perfect. That was perfect.
Cool. All right. So the next thing we want to cover, and you said we've covered kind of the can be wind. Is it a lot of headwinds, tailwinds, or was it side winds? Is there anything
Um,
else?
so desert wind is any direction it's coming at you at any direction. It's always against you. So you can make four right turns, or yeah, you can make four right turns, and the wind is always in your face.
That's again another
So
reason to get down aero, minimize that frontal resistance, and sort of help yourself in the day. Cool, excellent. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about aid station, but the one thing I want to point out as well, in terms of the cutoff times, again, I know for people, a lot of newbies who are watching this, whilst it's a challenging course, if you pace it right and you fuel right, as Coach Hilary has pointed out, you've got 5.5 hours to get it done. That includes your swim time, your T1 time, and your bike time. So we'll talk a little bit about transition. Before we go on, and what you can see is some of the cool 3D videos I've done. As again, they got this idea from the endurance guy who takes that idea to a whole new level. And if you see below, there's a little short video clip where he not only has all the 3D videos, but he also has all the Google Earth map stuff, which is cool. So whilst Coach Hilary is talking about and she's visualizing in her head, you can use this guy's videos to actually see. Oh, okay. So that's what it'll look like there. That's where the corner is. So do check out his videos and comments below. He's helped me a lot. Okay. Before we go to transition one, we're going to talk a little bit about aid stations, which myself and Coach were talking about beforehand. Aid stations in 70.3 are quite unique in a sense because obviously fueling for this sort of distance where you're talking between 4 to 7.5 hours, etc., you need to get your fueling on board. This is the standard flow of an Ironman aid station. There's only two places, and you can only discard litter or rubbish, or trash, as you Americans call it, um, in these areas. So between the start of it and the end of it, you can chuck bottles, wrappers, anywhere else. And if you're spotted by Marshall, you're being a dick and you're going to be DQ'd. So do not be a dick. This is my first one of my. I'm going to make this into a T-shirt for people to buy. You are guests in this state. You are and it's as Coach has correctly pointed out, it's a beautiful area. There's wonderful colors. They do not need Morton gel wrappers to add to the ambience. So only chuck it here between these 2 points, which means Ironman volunteers can clear it up afterwards and as if we're never been here. We only take photographs. We only leave footprints. Do not, and that's what is key. And we have to remember ourselves as ambassadors of triathlon, as ambassadors to different countries. We respect it. So that's. I always rant about that. It was really important. Ironically enough, I did get a yellow card in my first Ironman for chucking a water bottle in Germany, but I learned my lesson. I'm a better person now. But the other thing that you'll note that in terms of how it flows is you've got a water station, you've got mortal hydration, which is the nutrition of choice. There's fuel in terms of typically bananas or energy bars. There's mortal gels. There's another chance to get mortal hydration, and there's water. And there will be volunteers standing out, handing out, and they'll shout out what they've gone. Typically, I don't know, it was in the States where they have the bibs on that says, I've water, I've mortal hydration, etc. And do they have the bibs on in the States?
they don't usually have the bibs, but they do. Usually you can't tell. You can definitely tell who a volunteer is at any Ironman race, and they do a really good job. And as you're approaching into transition, yell out what you want, and you can yell out early and say Morton, and they will point you and
Yeah.
like be a telephone and say Morton, Morton, Morton. And all of a sudden you see a volunteer pop out with every Morton that you could possibly want, and they're ready to hand it off to you. If you miss the first water and you keep saying water, 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 that volunteer has gotten the message, he or she, and they're popping out to give you, to I want you to take the water from me, and they're going to and just have your hand open. They'll pop it into your hand and you'll grab it and then be on your way.
Yeah. And they're very good. As I said, we were having this conversation before we started recording. They're trained as it like, and it might sound a bit daft, or how hard is it to actually hand over a water bottle to someone? It's a moving bike. People are coming in at 20k an hour. There's lots of people moving. There's this is the risk point of your race on the bike, because people, if they don't communicate that they're turning in or they're coming out or they're dropping things because they're moving the hands off the aero bars, etc., and there's volunteers moving, it's really important to get it right. But the volunteers are very skilled, but again, you can make it easier. Make eye contact, point at the guy, the girl. It's a water bottle. Slow down. Talk to your competitors. I'm going in for the water bottle. Don't suddenly. And I saw this in Venice when I raced last year. Some lad just moved straight across, went across as if he was pulling into a drive-through, and he took out two cyclists. And I was going, oh my god! Just so there's. While I don't want to be alarmist, this is one of the risky parts of your race, and it's important you get it right. There's on that, and again, we could talk about this for ages, but there's a little video on the below, kind of key tips, do's and don'ts, and one of them is actually, by the way, actually practice this, as in get your friends, or your family, your support crew, at some point when you're going to come in and you're going to go cycle past the house, and they'll hold out a water bottle, slow it down, make sure you're comfortable getting the water bottle and putting it into your bottle cage, or filling up your hydration system and then chucking it, etc. So it's a vital part of Ironman. Ironman does its job. It sets it up right. It has the flow. Train the volunteers. Do your job. Know how it works. Practice it. You get in, safe, smooth, out, water on board. As Coach Hilary's pointed out, you'll need that water when the dead heat is there. You'll need that water for your fuel, etc. Any other last minute tips on nutrition stations?
Nope, I think we covered it actually.
Cool, excellent. Now we're going to talk a little bit about transition 2. Now, again, as you pointed out, this is a split transition. So you're coming to, actually, I'm going to show this a little bit. I'm going to hop back a little bit to, don't often do this, but as you can see, you can see our transition 1 beside the lake, and then our transition 2 is our little, our little checkered flag, which is transition 2. That's what we mean by a split transition. You have your blue bags in one place, your red bags in one place. You pick up your bike, you drop it in elsewhere. So we will move forward again. Transition 2. What's your tips and any advice for people picking up their red bag? Oh, hang on,
So transition 2, you're gonna come in. You're bringing in your bike. You'll rack your bike, and so know where your bike is. And then you'll have your run gear, your red bag already. So the night before or the day before, you'll drop your run gear bag where your bike is going to be, and then so when you come into transition, you'll rack your bike, and there will be volunteers around to help out. One year it was so cold on the bike, I couldn't get my helmet off, so I had a volunteer have to unlatch my helmet. But they're there. They'll try to help you. They'll try to help you get your bike on the rack, all that. And then again, just like I mentioned for bike, how do you put your stuff on? Are you putting your visor or your hat on first, or are you putting your shoes on first? Get your bag set up for how you want it done. Also, here's where you don't want to spend a lot of time. Really, what you can do is you're going to have your bib, your bib belt. Put your hat looped in on your bib belt and just get it cinched up. Get your shoes on and get your sunglasses and head out if you need. And take a water bottle. It's going to be hot, and then head out. If anything you got to do in this transition is put sunscreen on and go to the bathroom. Other than that, get out onto the road. You can put that hat on. You can undo your belt really quick, get the visor, put your hat on while you're running, because when we get out, there's going to be a moment you're going to have time to put your hat on. So don't spend a lot of time here. If anything, you're going to spend time telling all the volunteers, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, as you're exiting out of T2.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. And we have a phrase in my squad that said, "Nothing good happens in T2." As in, like, you sit down, you start stretching your legs, start thinking about a half marathon, go like, then as you correctly said, get whatever you need to move on. Put the runners on. By the way, I'm dry socks and T2 guy as well. And then off you go. And if you have your gel and your sunglasses in your hat or your visor, move when you're doing that. Your belt is on already, and then you sort of go and by the time you get the sunglasses on, by the time you get your hat on, by the time you get a gel in, you go, actually, I'm already 500 meters down the way. That's already ticked off. So yes, moving, you're improving. And by the way, I must point it out. I have an error here in the video. This should be the red bag, but I'm gonna get my editor to overshoot this. But this is a red bag for bike to run. And again, there's different stuff in that, and the transition tips will show you that. Any other last minute T2 tips?
No, just that kind of like what you did in T1. You took your wetsuit, everything, you put it in the bike bag. So you're going to take all your bike gear stuff and put it in the run bag. And then it'll stay there. So at the end of when you finish and you come and get your bike, you will pick up that run bag at that time as well.
Fantastic. Cool. Now, great tips. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move away from transition 2, and we're going to have a quick look at what the 3D video of the run course looks like, and then we'll talk through that. So back in 1 second. That's what the run course looks like, guys. Now we're going to talk about Hilary's going to give us our tips and our breakdown of what it's like to run the run course. 2 loops. Looks like we cover a bit of green and asphalt here, or concrete. So
yes. Another reason why this is a challenging course is because the run is hilly too. So you're going to come out of T2, and why I said you're going to have time to put that visor on, hat on, get all that stuff, because immediately you hit a hill. So it's a nice climb. It's about 1 to 2 miles on Diagonal Street. So that diagonal that you see, that's all a little bit of a nice climb up to about mile 2. Now, you're going to be running through a residential area, but again, there's no shade. The shade, you're going to be actually on the asphalt, the actual street itself. This is completely closed to traffic. So if you have Sherpas or family coming to see you on the run, they're going to have to take all the rerouted areas, because this is actually closed to traffic, because bikers are coming in and runners are going out. So this is actually part of where you'll come in for the run or the bike course, but there's no shade. So please, 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 it's the desert. We get hot. You'll get a sunburn. Protect yourself. They will have sunscreen out in the aid stations. St. George, the volunteers, the community, everything, they really come out for this race, and they're happy to help us with everything. If you need, some of the aid stations have Vaseline. If you suddenly have a chafe in an area and you need something, sunscreen, water, everything. If you can, I like to tell people you can get this online, little mini ice bags, and fill it up with ice at the aid stations and pop it into your tri-kit wherever you can securely get it. It'll keep that core nice and cool. You definitely want to always take a little, even if you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I need water, take a quick sip of water. You don't want to get yourself dehydrated. Really get your electrolytes in. But yeah, you're going to be out in the sun. So once you get up into mile 2, they did make some changes this last year. You're going to kind of do a little turnaround, and then you're going to enter into a golf course. So on the golf course, you will be on some of the golf cart paved ways, and then sometimes you're going to be out on the green. So this is a little bit challenging because it's not just, you might go up, down, left, right. It's just hard to get a good pace in during this time. Also, we're wearing running shoes. We're not wearing cleated shoes. So be mindful. The grass does get a little pounded down, slippery, so it can make it a little challenging with running. So you'll go through the golf course, and then now you're going to come down Diagonal Street. Then you're going to come towards, it's going to look like the finish line. Make sure you know what loop you are on. There you've got tons of volunteers there. If you say, I got to go again, they're going to tell you, okay, then go back up diagonal. Otherwise, they'll tell you to hang a left to the finish line. And then you're going to do that.
Do they use the hairband system, as in like when looped courses in Europe, when you run through it, as in like when you go past the first loop, they give you like a blue hairband, and then when you go, okay.
Nope, you gotta make sure you get your brain.
Switch on the race brain. Switch off race brain and remember mental arithmetic brain. Okay.
It is actually not too bad when it's 2. It becomes challenging when it's 3 because you're like, wait, am I on 2 or 3? So
and that's what they do. They have like, but then you have these sort of like these hairbands on, and people have hairband envy because you're running along and you're looking, going, oh, he's got a yellow and a green band. I've only got a yellow band. Okay, but again, but 2 loops can't be too hard. Although I'm pretty sure we're going to make a lot of golfers unhappy running through that course. But hey, they have it 364 days a year.
Yeah, so they'll be fine. They have a big tournament the week before, so I think it'll be okay. But yeah, and this is another great spot for family, friends, your Sherpa to come and see you. I actually highly recommend to be down at Tabernacle Street. There's a bank, I think it is, on the corner, and you can see your athlete come out of T2, head up diagonal, then they're going to come down, run past you, loop, go through it all again, and then you'll see them run down that finish line. And it's epic running to that finish line. You just have that crowd there, and it's almost like you feel like a celebrity that day. They're cheering you on to get to that, and you don't know who they are, but they're cheering you on to get to that finish line. So it's it's a really good course.
Cool. And again, there's lots of, as you said, the aid stations are key. Again, my advice to my guys is never miss an aid station. You're either taking on board fuel, you're taking on board some sort of water or drink. Even, as you said, working on keeping your core temperature down. As I said, putting splashing water on your hand, on the back of your neck, down your tri-suit, etc. So, all good points. And the aid stations are roughly every kind of mile.
About every mile. Yeah.
Lovely. Cool, excellent. And again, the format is the same in terms of, as we said, like you'll have the options for water, you'll have the fuel, the Morton gels, you'll have mortal hydration. In terms of the, and again, littering rule applies. Do not drop anything there. As in, again, we keep it together. So, we have any last minute tips on the run course?
Just be mindful of that uphill and the downhill. So you want to do quick feet for that uphill, meaning whether you're going to walk fast or you're just going to not overstride your run. And then on that downhill, be mindful. So get some downhill training in, because that can be very hard on our knees or joints, and it makes it difficult when you have to do it all over again, or when you're trying to finish it out because you're like, it's downhill, I need to finish it out. So just be mindful of the up and the downhill. Make sure you incorporate that in your training.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's a course that, as you said, you've got to train for hills, bike and run. And again, that's vital to take it away. You can't just train all flat and then expect to have a super day out. You got to learn what it's like to suffer in the saddle. You learn how, as you said, how you adjust your cadence going up a hill, how you adjust your cadence and not lean backwards. I think that's a classic mistake people make. They're running back and they kind of lean backwards. No. Lean, because all you're doing is you're engaging your quads and you're tiring muscles that you lean into the gravity. Give back to Newton, as in he will take you down faster if you lean in and wave your arms, as I said, if it's really going well for you. I tell my guys to run like Phoebe if they're running down a steep downhill. It works. Okay, cool. So in terms of your day to get out, you swim, your T1, your bike, your T2, and your run. You've got 8.5 hours doing this course. It is a challenging course, but again, there's lots of time if you get that right. As Coach Hilary points out, make sure you on top of your nutrition, your hydration, and keeping on top of your core temperature. You are racing in the desert. Plan accordingly, and then you will end up with this. Maybe not beating Alistair Brownlee. Well, maybe now that he's retired, possibly. But if anyone gets below a 3:41.58, they well deserve to win this course. But the finish line looks class. And again, that's quite an impressive time there. But again, that's also something that I tell my guys to visualize. Check out as part of your recce of the day when you're looking at the transition 1, transition 2. Make sure you see the finish line, because that's what you need to visualize when it starts to suck on the bike. Go, no, I want that red carpet. My family and friends are going to be there. I'm going to get over that line. I'm going to actually make it all happen. So visualizing is key. And a little bit of other considerations, which we're going to talk before I'm going to ask Coach Hilary some ideas on her race day logistics, since she's done it 5 times. Some other things that we've mentioned. We mentioned nutrition, massively important for 70.3 race. We could talk about this. Myself and Hilary could be here for hours on this one, a topic alone. I've saved you the trouble. There's a video in the comments below to give you some things you need to work out, how, when, and how often you should eat. Excuse me. People will be coming from all around to race this. I believe this is the last year it's going to happen. So people are going to travel back to this race. It's a very iconic race. Make sure you got your packing list here. And then this is where myself and Coach Hilary earn our money. When people start losing their mind for tapering 2 weeks out, make sure you watch that. There's the 6-minute tips that in terms of things you should do to set yourself up for success. Coach Hilary has already mentioned them: how to train for the course, how to check the athlete grid and the guide, make sure that nothing new comes out, because these things can change. Ironman California changed the course there too. Was it the last few weeks leading up to it 2-3 years ago, just because it had to. Make sure you keep on top of the athlete guide. Attend an athlete briefing. It's good to hang out with your competitors. Right. But the actual race day itself. Now, this is based on last year's schedule, but they tend to be the same: Thursday, Friday, and then race day Saturday. What's your key tips to people in terms of registering, getting to an event? What's your top tips there, Coach Hilary?
So St. George is raced on Saturday, not Sunday. Please get your travel arrangements correct. So if you can get in Thursday, that allows you all day Friday to get things together. You can do athlete check-in Thursday, go to one of the athlete briefing, but really everything is going to kind of come together on Friday. And you want to do everything as early as possible. So get to that first athlete check-in, get to that first athlete briefing, and then you're going to go and take everything to, as soon as bike gear check-in happens, get there. So it's 10 a.m. for last year. If it's 10 a.m. this year, you want to get there at 10 a.m. You'll also pick up your timing chip at bike check-in. They're no longer doing it at the Ironman Village. And then the reason why you want to do it early is, okay, so you're going to rack your bike, you're going to turn your bike gear in. Now you're going to leave T1. Maybe take a look at the bike course. There is a fee to get into Snow Canyon. I highly suggest that you go and check it out. Go and see the beauty of it. You're going to get back. You're going to turn in your run gear check-in, kind of look to see where your bike's going to go. When you're coming back into T2, you're going to get back to your hotel. And then you're going to make sure that you didn't forget that one sock. And if you did, you have time to go back and put it into those gears. So really do it early as possible. I have
a tip on that. What I get my guys to do as well, as a part of that sort of the transition bag shows you when, but there's also that fear, especially with this course where you don't have access to blue and red bag in the morning. Put everything lie it beside it and take a photograph of it, because then if you're going to go, did I put my shades in my red bag or my blue bag, or what, I go like, and you look at the picture, you go, they're there, because otherwise you're rummaging around to try to see if you can find shades which may already be in the blue bag. So taking a photograph, everything is about keeping stress levels minimized in the day before the race. But again, and you're 100% right. Even if you go, actually, I didn't put the shades in. If you've gone early, you've got a few hours to get it in. So great tip.
And you will have access to your bag, to your bike bag race morning. They have allowed you access in the past. Again, what happens on race day will be shared during athlete briefing, so it can change at any time. So yeah, you'll have access to your bike. You can put whatever, take something out of your bike gear bag and put it on the bike. But run tends to be a little hard just because you also have to pick up the bus. You will be picking up buses to head out to T1 early in the morning. That usually starts about 4 in the morning, I believe it is. And they'll take athletes first, then they'll take family later.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And
do they, as you said, they don't typically allow for practice swim, but again, it might happen. Is that correct?
It might happen. So it may not directly be on the actual race course. So at Sand Hollow, where transition is, I'm looking at it, to the right, there's a swim area. So a lot of times they'll go rack their bike, grab their stuff, and head out, walk across the big parking lot and go to where you can get some swim in. They don't actually have you do the actual swim course. So it's usually off to the side.
Cool. No, that's great tips as well. And in terms of again, assuming that they have the same kind of rough timetable, you will start at 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. Any other last minute hints or tips for our guys in terms of race day morning?
So it's going to be cold. So if you can get some of those hand warmers, put them in your bike shoes. So when you come out of the water, your shoes will be nice and warm and toasty when you put your cold feet in. And again, just you're going to make friends. Pumps. There will be bike pumps available. There'll be bike techs available. But if you can, bring your own bike pump and hand it off. Do not put it in your morning clothes bag. If you use the morning clothes bag, that will get transported back to the finish line, just like your bike bag, the blue bag, the white morning clothes bag. Those two will get transported to the finish line. And so I have put my cell phone in there. I have put my car keys in there, and I have gotten them back and headed back home. So they are trustworthy. You just want to make sure you really seal them up real tight if you are putting your hotel keys or something in there.
Yeah, I know. I've never heard of anything going wrong with those bags. Although we did hear that some bikes were stolen from IRONMAN Hamburg, but that was a bit unusual. But I personally, I try to minimize valuable stuff in it personally. Typically I'll have a hotel key, and so you're you're not going to be using your phone. And I know it's great afterwards. You want to text your friends and all the rest. I always go, look, my car key, the rental car keys, the phone. They're in the locker in the hotel. If anything goes wrong, if that bag gets lost, so I just have a key or a little bit of cash for a cab or something like that. But you're right, as in I've never heard of anyone having any valuable swipe from it. It's typically the community that's helping out with the race, so it's you can trust it and all that. Okay, cool. Listen, we have gone on a little bit longer, which I'd hope for, but that's only because this was absolutely info jammed full of great info. So thank you very much. And on behalf of everybody's watching, I'd like to say a very heartfelt a thank you to Coach Hilary. She's been absolutely gem. I would consider doing this course, even though hills frighten me. But again, that's because you've sold it so well. And what I'd like to again highlight, if you have any other questions, as you can see, she is an absolute fountain of knowledge. She has done this course well. And as I said, she's done the course 5 times, which it scared me off even looking at it once. So my hats off to her again. And thank you very, very much for your time, your effort, and your energy and enthusiasm. It's been absolutely brilliant. Any last words to people who are looking forward to St. George now?
If you guys come, please have fun. This is a challenging course. If you're not having your race day, then turn it into just celebrating the fact that you can race, because this is an epic course to race on. It's beautiful, and you'll love every minute of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I said, there's Coach Hilary's voice. If you want to ping her, if you want to actually just have last minute questions about the course, or if you really want to PB this course and other courses, I highly recommend you reach out to her, have a conversation. She's a very knowledgeable lady, and she's a super person, and she will get you that PB. So we will wrap it up there. Thank you once again, Hilary. It's been absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
And we're off. How was that?
It was great. I'm sorry. I found